organized this exhibit. People are always asking me why I did this. Are you crazy? But I have a friend of mine who comes and helps me clean my house twice a month, named Wendy. She's a fabulous person, and we share being animal lovers and stuff. So she lives on Dunkard Creek, which is about 12 miles from where I live. I live in Morgantown. I drive by it. It's bigger than a little creek. It looks I would have called it a river. It's a really pretty, sparkly stream that goes about 43 miles. It starts in West Virginia, I think, winds over the Pennsylvania line back and forth. The Mason-Dixon line actually flows along it, and it empties into the Monongahela River. It's in the Monongahela watershed. So anyway, this friend of mine came over and she said, "Oh, Annie, you got to come look at this creek. There's something really wrong with my creek." And I'm like, I can't fix your creek. I don't know. Okay, fine, I'll come and look at your creek. So I got in my car and I drove out to look at the creek, and her husband George was home, and we got the same size feet, so he gave me his wading boots, and they put me in the pickup truck and they drove me down to the creek. And at one of those kind of drive-in low water places. And so I walked out of the pickup, and the first thing I noticed on the left, there were what are they, green herons. There were, and you don't usually see like a mob of green herons, but there were mixed birds. I didn't catch what the other ones were. There were all these birds, and they were eating fish, and on the ground. It was really weird, and of course, they scared them right away. And then off on the right, somebody made a homemade sign, and it said something like, "Who murdered our creek? And who will save it?" Somebody had put this homemade sign up there. Well, I waded into the creek, and I grew up in West Virginia, and in all my life, and all the bad streams I've seen, I never saw anything like this. There were, every place that you looked, there were bodies of fish. There were huge muskies, there were little tiny fish. The thing that killed me was I grew up playing with salamanders. I was an only child, and I always had friends that were slimy and had little funny fingers. There were mud puppies. You never see mud puppies. They're ugly, and they always stay on the bottom of the stream. They were trying to get out. They were suffocating, and they had died trying to crawl out of the water. You'd see them with their little fingers trying to get up out of the water. All the fish had obviously suffocated. Their gills were bleeding. They were like this. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. It was in September. It was mid-September. Where the seeps were running down in, which was fresh water running off little side creeks, they were almost dried up. But they were like living sardine cans of fish trying to get out of the creek and escape, but there wasn't enough water. And so they would become exhausted and die and fall back, and other ones, I mean, it was horrible. And so I was traumatized, basically. I thought, I don't know what to do about this. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what to do, but my heart was just broken. It was just broken. So I went home. Well, they announced meetings about it. There was a little thing in the paper, and I thought if people could see this, but people didn't understand it. You read blah blah blah, and you just don't get it really. And so I went to meetings, and it was these meetings, and people would go, and they'd last 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, and biologists would talk, and ecologists would talk, and politicians would talk, and officials from companies would talk, and county officials would talk, and there was no way for like a normal person to be in this conversation. It was just closed, and I would come out of it and go, yeah, but I have to do something. I can't talk. They would talk about, TMDLs, and I said, I don't know an STD from a TDS. What do I know about all this stuff? All I know is this isn't right. And I feel like it's my obligation as a human being to say something about this, and I have to say it in a way that this is sort of a poster child. Here is my backyard. This is an environmental disaster, and what do you do, So I thought, well, I'm an artist. That's my language. I am actually trained as a botanical artist, and I don't usually do upsetting things, but I thought, well, all right, I'm kind of grieving. I'm going to paint every species in the creek. So I had to find out how many species there were, and there are many. I ended up picking 90.